This argument, it requires a significant misreading of the text. Now, the prosperity gospel's most foundational claim is that material wealth and financial blessing are the covenant birthright of every genuine believer. That Yahweh's will for his people is always and without exception prosperity in the material sense, and that any departure from that prosperity represents a failure of faith or a covenant breach that must be corrected. So let's break this down by first looking at what the Abrahamic covenant actually says. Let's go to Galatians 3, verse 13. The text says, "The Messiah redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us, because it is written, 'Cursed is everyone who is hung on a tree.'" The purpose was that the blessing of Abraham would come to the Gentiles by Messiah Yeshua so that we could receive the promised Spirit through faith. Now, prosperity teachers, they frequently appeal to the Abrahamic covenant as the biblical basis for the believer's right to material wealth. And so the argument is something like this. Abraham was materially blessed. We are heirs of Abraham's blessing through Yeshua. Therefore, the material wealth of Abraham, it's our covenant inheritance. But this argument, it requires a significant misreading of the text. Now, Galatians 3, verses 13 through 14, identifies the specific blessing of Abraham that comes to believers through Yeshua. It is the promised Spirit, the gift of the Holy Spirit, not the material possessions of the patriarch. The inheritance that flows from our adoption into the family of Abraham is a spiritual inheritance. Justification by faith, the spirit of promise, and ultimately the eternal inheritance of the covenant. And Paul never describes the Abrahamic blessing as a guarantee of material wealth to New Covenant believers, and the attempt to read it that way requires ignoring the plain meaning of the text that define it. And additionally, the prosperity gospel's appeal to Abraham requires ignoring the full narrative of Abraham's life, which included decades of waiting, some profound personal suffering, the call to leave everything that he knew, the near sacrifice of his son, and a faith that was tested and refined through circumstances that looked nothing like the polished prosperity preached from the modern platforms. Abraham's material wealth was a historical reality in his specific context, but not a template promise, if you will, for every subsequent believer.